to another episode of Grendel's Sad Show. I am your host, Grendel. As a young tabaxi, I was raised in a farming community. An only child, I spent many years at home while my parents went off with bailiff Startooth. Startooth was the owner of the land we worked, but his passion was magic and acting. He created a traveling show and my parents were the stars. He heard rumors of what a druid was capable of and kept an eye on me and my cousin Tulip, knowing one of us was next in line. Everyone thought Tulip was for sure going to be the next druid. She was strong, outgoing, but cared little for nature unless she was slicing up a field for practice. It never dawned on anyone that the next druid descends from my father's side. Tulip, my cousin, was my uncle's daughter on my mother's side. There was no way she was to be the next druid. I didn't want it though, so I was content letting everyone believe it was her. My handiness for building sets and animal handling got Startooth's attention, and he allowed me to travel with the show. Even if I wasn't a druid, I was worth more to him on the road than I was back at home, where I would hide out all day reading any book I could get my hands on. Next week I will talk about some of these trips and how I went from being Daisy Gerbera, that's my real name, to Grendel, and why I have an obsession with goats. Continuing on with Arnold J. Bauer's article, Millers and Grinders, Technology and Household Economy in Meso-America, we'll go back to the tortilla as we question why such a marvel exists. Metates and griddles were present in the very early strata at Tehuacan, but maize occupied a small percentage of the diet, no more than 15 to 20% of the total diet around 3000 BCE. Through domestication advancements and permanent settlements, maize and more importantly the tortilla became staples within the diet of this region. In the decades preceding European invasion, the people of Meso-America had worked out a complex diet with maize, beans, squash, chilies, and the maguey at the center, but supplemented with algae from the lakes, honey from the stingless bee, ducks, and dogs fattened for meat, and a wide range of mammals, birds, fish, reptiles, amphibians, crustaceans, insects, worms, in fact anything that could be eaten. A list of foods that made up the basis for a rich and varied diet. Like any society, access to certain foods were determined by social class. The elite ate more exotic items, while the peasants, who were the majority, ate a much leaner diet consisting of maize, beans, chili, and agave, which was enriched with wild fruits, nuts, berries, roots, and the like, which could be gathered over the countryside. The European invasion in the early 16th century brought sweeping and catastrophic changes to this primitive yet sophisticated food regime. An array of new animals and plants were introduced, with European livestock reproducing at alarming rates in this fenceless world. They grazed and trampled over native fields and shattered the local ecology. The oxen-drawn plow increased production in the bottomland, but led to erosion of fields previously planted with hoe and digging sticks. The native population saw the advantages of sheep and pigs, while horses and cows were judged as having little value, as they took up too much land. European fowl were valuable because they needed little care, as they could scavenge for food and supplied eggs. They were cheap enough that even the peasants could wring the neck of a chicken without reflecting upon the loss of revenue. Other vegetables and fruits were introduced, but only the fava bean was readily accepted. This led to a far-reaching impact on the fragile biomass. This, with the reduced population of natives from about 12 to 15 million to less than a million a century later, gave the Spaniards the upper hand when imposing a two-republic system onto the natives. The native social structure was compressed, rank and privilege reduced, and the entire mass pressed to the bottom of the new order imposed by the Europeans. This was accompanied by the appropriation of land and water. In two great waves of resettlement and appropriation, 1553 to 1563, and then again in 1585 to 1595, The European settlers and their descendants placed the remnant population into new congregations and took over its land to extend European agriculture. Some of the best irrigated lands were planted to wheat, others to cane or used for grazing. The native population retained, as a rule, land sufficient only for its milpas, i.e. patches of maize land, or obtained access to arable through service tenantry or sharecropping on the emerging haciendas. The sophisticated exploitation of a wide range of resources and the environment on the part of the native mass was diminished by the invasion of European men and animals. The native diet was relentlessly compressed into what came to be known as the Holy Trinity of maize, beans, and squash. By the early 20th century, the maize tortilla had come to contribute some 70 to 75% of the total caloric intake of ordinary people, a much larger share than it represented centuries earlier. Thus we come to the cruel paradox. Meso-American people drew their sustenance from the humble tortilla, the simplest of plants to produce, but of all the cereal products in the world, the one that requires the greatest investment of time in its preparation. The poorest stratum of society thus had more of a decreased range of food in the case of tortillas. The calories were purchased at the cost of massive inputs of female labor. Under the circumstances, not only economic, as we shall see, but cultural as well, there was little interest in technology to improve the lot of women. The Neolithic period continued into the 20th century. We will end it here for now. Next episode, we will talk about how shameful it would be for a man to do woman's work. Today, we are going to interview Bas Ura, the musician behind all of the music for my podcast, including the intro, outro song. Love his work. Hello, Bas Ura. How are you doing today?
Hello, Grendel, and hello, all the listeners out there. It's great to be here.
So, can you maybe tell us a little bit about your musical journey and how you got started in this work? How you became Bas Ura?
Sure. Well, I started out doing like punk rock and guitar music and stuff, but the stuff that you hear on Grendel's Sad Show is sort of a departure from my traditional work. It's very fun in that regard.
What inspires your music in your songwriting process? I mean, some of those names that you have for your songs, I would say they have to come from somewhere. You're obviously getting a lot of inspiration from maybe some movies, maybe some other songs, and maybe just your personal life. So
Absolutely. I think most of all, I like to have fun with that project. As Bas Ura, or basura in the traditional Spanish pronunciation, meaning garbage or trash. It's just like things you might throw away otherwise. Things that, it's just for total fun. It's about being free and being silly. And so yeah, there's some movie references and stuff, and some sounds, that come from other media. But most of all, it's really like, just to see how good of a time I can have with the music.
do you hope your listeners take away a specific feeling or anything from your music?
Yeah, well, I mean, hopefully, overall, I can do a lot of different kinds of vibes or styles, right? But so if there are things that you hear that give you like the cool spooky vibes or something, that's especially awesome. But besides that, um, it really is a lot of my beats especially when I first make them, they just make me laugh. Like, uh, random dog barking sounds and stuff. It's just silly. So that's another vibe I want people to take away. Just loosen up and laugh.
Do you want to talk about maybe the role of music in your life and how it influences you personally?
Oh, well, yeah, sure. I mean, like the other kind of music I do with like guitar and stuff, it was super emotional. And I did that under a different artist name, you know. But, so it was like a total different palette of feelings and stuff. Um, so I did that kind of music to help me get through tough times and stuff, I guess you could say. But this music now, as Bas Ura, it really is just about experimentation and messing around. Uh, so it's about, like, the freedom of it.
Is there any specific role that technology plays in your music making process? Would you say that technology helps you or, helps you be more creative?
Oh, yeah, I mean, again, like, I started out on acoustic music, which is, like, super ancient traditions and stuff. Like, the guitar is a really old instrument, but when I started doing the music that you hear on this podcast, it was all about this cool loop pedal that I had, where you could just record a short thing and then you could play over it. And I mean, I guess that's a kind of a basic modern device in that a lot of musicians or producers will have, but it was really new to me a couple of years ago. And since then, all of the Bas Ura stuff has basically been loop centric. So yeah, the technology, I've only just started to get into like electro music technology and making music with computers is still pretty new to me, but yeah, I love using different devices and stuff.
Are there any rituals or routines you like to do before you enter the studio?
Just general, uh, mental health stuff. Gotta make sure you're in the right headspace, feeling healthy and medicated or whatever you need to get you feeling comfortable. I mean, sometimes you can make music when you're not feeling great and it feels like a good catharsis and stuff. But I think most of the time for me, it is like the rituals are just to like kind of focus and like set the mood, turn the lights down and all that kind of thing.
Are there any specific moments or milestones in your career that stand out to you?
Not yet, I'm just getting started. Just being on the Grindle Sad Show is my first major accomplishment. I'm really proud to be associated with the Grindle Sad brand.
And we're glad to have you. You've added a lot of just fun to our podcast. It wouldn't be the same without it.
Thank you so much. It's a great opportunity. I mean, I had made a lot of those songs before I even knew about the podcast, and it just was so awesome that they found a home and someone to like them.
Well, I knew as soon as I heard them that I had a place for them, and I'm just glad you agreed to let me use them.
Thanks so much, Grindle.
Is there anything else you'd like to talk about on this show? I mean, we can always have you back if you ever.
I'd love to come back. I'd absolutely love to come back. No, I just want to say, keep on rocking in the free world and fighting the good fight and sticking it to the man and keep it silly, y'all.
And I've requested a few more songs from you, and we'll see if we'll obviously highlight those if we get some of those for the show in the future.
Heck yeah.
But thank you for joining us today, Bas Ura. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and even more of a pleasure listening to your music.
Thanks for having me. I'd love to be back.
Today on What's That Job, we will look at Stinker number 307, located in Silverthorne, Colorado. This is for a convenience store, general associate, store hours 6 to 9 p.m., pay range $14 to $18.49 per hour. Alright, let's take a look at this description of this job. Stinker is a family-owned and operated company that has been in business for nearly 85 years. Stinker offers great career opportunities in 110 locations in 3 western states, Idaho, Wyoming, and Colorado. Stinker also owns one quick service restaurant, Dairy Queen, a distribution company, Arrow Rock Supply, and a fuel transportation company, West Point Transportation. We are a stable and growing company that takes pride in providing their employees with endless growth opportunities, comprehensive benefits, competitive wages, and a flexible work/life balance, with a culture that makes our employees feel valued and a part of something bigger. This job stinks of success, and so can you. They have additional benefits, which includes daily pay, a voluntary benefit that allows you to access earned funds in between pay periods. Ooh, wow. Job duties include exhibit customer service excellence by fostering a welcoming environment and assisting customers with their needs. Accurately and efficiently complete sales transactions and follow appropriate cash handling procedure. Ensure merchandise is stocked, fronted, and faced, and priced accordingly. Maintain inventory and proper rotation of products. Ensure that the store is kept tidy and is welcoming to our guests. Have fun with an awesome company and team. It's the Stinker way. Let's take a look at these Indeed reviews. First one, I just thought it was funny. This one is from Nampa, Idaho location, not the one we're currently taking a look at. I'm sure they're all the same, but anyways, this is a 1-star review. They don't practice what they preach. They don't practice what they preach. Always some issue or drama going on. Think you're doing good and bam, no, you're in trouble. They have daily pay and you use it and you have no check at payday. That was one of the benefits they mentioned. I mean, if you are using daily pay daily, then I would see that there would probably be no check. Now we move on to a couple of reviews from the location we're actually looking at, Silverthorne, Colorado. This is a 3-star review. Not great. Was hired to do mid-shifts, but was put on nights till midnight. Was not the best hours. Was pretty miserable, though I did like the people, but not the manager. This is a 4-star review. Very fair, well focused. This job allowed me to save up the money to move to a different state in less than 10 months. I was allowed as much overtime as I wanted, and management was fair and always uplifting. I highly recommend this company to anyone who is flexible in time schedule and enjoys a fast-paced environment. The total stars on Indeed for this company as a whole, for all their locations, is a 3.3. And I'd say for a convenience store, that is actually very good. Now let's look at their website. Let's do a little back story here. Ferris Lind, the man behind the skunk, considering himself to be a real stinker. He opened his first gas station with the promise of keeping fuel prices down to undercut the big boys' high prices. Quickly he became known as a real stinker in the gas industry. So, what better way to identify the station causing all the stink than by naming his station's Stinker? Everyone who pulled into a stinker station knew they were getting the same quality gas as the other guys, but at a real cut-rate price. Lind opened his first stinker gas station in Twin Falls, Idaho in 1936. The first stinker in Boise opened at 16th and Front Street. Soon after, stations started opening up all over Idaho, Utah, and Nevada. The brilliance of Lind's marketing mind was illustrated by the many road signs he put up along the highways of Idaho. What started as an idea to cover the other side of his advertisement board quickly turned into an opportunity to post humorous sayings. These billboards, combining the power of humor with advertising, became an instant hit for Stinker. They were widely known through the Northwest and well received by travelers on the long stretches of sagebrush-lined highways of Idaho. Lind was quoted as saying, "I'll do anything for a laugh, and for a few dollars, I'll get hysterical." He thought up most of the sayings, but he also offered to pay 50 cents to anyone in his family who came up with a good line or two. At one point, there were 150 signs between Green River, Wyoming, and Jordan Valley, Oregon. Today, you'll find a few old standing signs along with some new ones. All right, and for those of you that don't know, Stinker has a mascot. His name is Polecat Pete. So a little history on Polecat Pete here. With the help of a friend who had drawn for Disney, Ferris created Polecat Pete, the skunk character which became the Stinker logo. Although the logo has been updated through the years, Polecat Pete continues to be the brand of Stinker today. Ferris so loved the skunk that he raised a live, de-scented skunk named Cleo. Customers often saw him walking Cleo up and down the sidewalks of Boise. Today, Polecat Pete is full-bodied and active, no longer posing in just one position. You'll see him out and about doing all kinds of things in his community. His chest is up because he is confident that his hard work will pay off. He's wearing boxing gloves because he's always ready to fight for what's right. He is outlined by white, so he always stands out, no matter what's behind him. His characteristic grin hints at something great and unexpected. He raises a positive stink with his bold and daring attitude. Like him, stinkers are fun, lighthearted, and have plenty of moxie. So one thing I did not do with Smokin' Thighs last time was look at what are the customers saying here. That's probably real important too. So we're going to look at the Silverthorne Colorado Stinker store and what are the reviews on Google. Well, they have an overall 2.7 off 11 reviews. This person says 1 star. The woman working the counter this morning today followed me outside and chewed me out after giving her $5 for fuel. She was upset because she told me I had to wait inside while she activated the pump. I have never had this happen to me. Following me outside to yell at me about waiting at the counter while she counted to 5 was unacceptable. My business filled all of our vehicles there, but I will never return. As a 20-year local, I have already had bad experiences at this gas station, but this will be the last one. This next one is also 1 star, and it says, after a 4-hour car ride with 3 hours ahead of us, my partner and I stopped for coffee for me and a caffeinated soda for him. We entered the store, and without actually looking at us, the woman behind the counter greeted us, "Hey." We had to ask excuse me to get her attention and eye contact, and then asked if we could use our own cups to refill, to cut down on plastic waste. Fully expecting this would not be allowed as COVID regulations have made zero waste efforts more difficult, and we respect and understand regulations put in place for the safety of both customers and staff. After some confusion and having to clarify the question more than once, the woman behind the counter said we couldn't use our own cups, which was fine and worth asking. He used the restroom, I got my coffee from the open bar area in the provided cups with lids, and he grabbed a bottle of soda from the cooler. I handed him my coffee so he could pay for it as I used the restroom. At this point, there were 2 women behind the counter. He tried to purchase my coffee, and for some reason they needed to see if I used creamer or not. There was a lid on my coffee, requiring that the lid be removed at the register to see if I used creamer. Can't be the standard of customer service. I have never been questioned about the use of creamer, flavor syrups, sugars, or sweeteners at a gas station, open coffee bar. They apparently told my partner that I should have asked if I could use half and half. By walking in and asking about the coffee service, I feel this was enough of an announcement that I would be enjoying some of the provided coffee. Maybe the staff members should warn customers about surplus coffee charges when you enter. Is there a menu or instructional sign above the coffee I didn't see saying I have to announce each pump of half and half I use? How many seconds I hold the button down for? Seriously, I want to respect the rules set in place, but apparently I must have missed something, or I've been making coffee wrong my whole life. 7 hours on the road that day, a joy for road trips and travel, and being raised all over the world as a military brat, I can honestly say this is the first time I've ever been questioned at an open coffee bar and or charged extra for the use of standard coffee additive. We ended up leaving without our coffee or soda. Thanks for the automated gas pumps, great customer service at the Humanness Pumps, and wish we didn't have to ask for a receipt from inside the store. Another 1-star review. This is the worst place I've ever been to. Prepaid $200 and it took the pump almost an hour. I tried everything to get it to go faster. When I complained to the cashier, she basically told me to deal with it. I will never buy fuel or anything here ever again. Stay away from this place. A few tidbits of knowledge I learned at my very short stint at a convenience store. If the pump is running slow, that means that the pump underground is probably malfunctioning. So what you're going to do is you're going to hang up the pump, right? The person inside should be aware that when that happens, all the pumps need to be shut off for at least 30 seconds for the underground pumps to catch up. At that time, they can turn the gas back on and it should go full steam ahead. Now, I don't know if every convenience store worker is going to be aware of this, so it might just be easier to hang up the pump and move on. Another tidbit of info, if you prepay on a card inside and you don't use all that, it's going to go back onto your card. You do not have to go back inside and interact with the employee again. They don't want you to come back in and interact with them anyways. So, just a little bit of info. Now I move on to a 4-star review. This one I found very interesting. Maybe you will too. Very friendly customer service, clean, and super amazing to work there. Miss Debbie is a super awesome manager who cares for her staff, and it's like a second family for me working there. The customers are so amazing and always make me smile, and I want to provide good customer service. Smiley face. Stephanie couldn't even give it a 5-star. She had to leave it at 4-star. I think that's, interesting. Did Miss Debbie make her write that? Well, we're about to find out. The last review we will cover was written by Debbie. Is this the same Debbie referenced in Stephanie's post about awesome manager Miss Debbie? It does seem a little strange that it's one of the very few 5-star reviews. Anyways, Debbie says, awesome clean store, friendly service. A manager would say those things. I'm thinking Debbie and Stephanie were in cahoots to raise that score. But anyways, yep, 2.7 stars. Only 11 reviews though. Maybe it's not that bad. I wouldn't know. Today our sponsor, brand.masters.supreme, brings us a new airline business, Zippy Airways. Discover the one-of-a-kind charm of Zippy Airways, where they proudly declare, we don't zag, we zip. Buckle up for a speedy flight that keeps you guessing. From unpredictable turbulence to snacks that go from ordinary to extraordinary. They offer a dash of excitement and a heap of surprises. Embrace the zippy spirit and prepare for a journey you won't quite anticipate. Buckle up and get ready for a zippy experience. Thankfully, I don't plan on flying anytime soon, so if anyone takes a flight with Zippy Airways, let us know about your experience, as this company has 0 reviews at the time of this recording. Cassette tape time! Today's feature from the Mediocre Cassette Tape Archive is Truth Dare Double Dare by Bronski Beat. This 11-track album was released in 1986 on MCA Records. It marked the British dance band's second musical endeavor. Notably, it introduced John Foster as the lead vocalist, succeeding Jimmy Somerville. Formed in 1983 in London, England, this synth-pop band comprised initially of Somerville, Steve Bronski, and Larry Steinbeck. They gained prominence in the mid-1980s, especially with their hit single, Small Town Boy, from their debut album, The Age of Consent. Despite its notable tracks like Hit That Perfect Beat, the album didn't resonate as strongly in the US market. The band's origins trace back to a shared flat in Brixton, London, where Somerville, Bronski, and Steinbeck decided to collaborate musically, aiming for a more outspoken and politically charged expression, distinct from the mainstream gay performers of their time. Signing with London Records in 1984, after only 9 live performances, Bronski Beat recruited Foster, also known as John John, as Somerville's replacement. Their success continued with singles from the release of Truth Dare Double Dare, Hit That Perfect Beat, and Come On, Come On. The Ottawa Citizen wrote that the Caribbean sound of Come On, Come On and the energetic dance number Hit That Perfect Beat are prime examples of the Bronskis' diverse musical change. The Gazette noted that the band's gay political stance and dance floor logic remains intact for this second album. The band's openly gay identity and political commentary on gay issues were evident in their music. Somerville's departure in 1985 didn't hinder their trajectory, as Foster joined, leading to further hits in the UK and Europe. Despite Foster's brief tenure, Bronski Beat's impact endured, solidifying their place in musical history. The only info Mediocre Cassette Tape Archive wanted to include about this album is the following. I originally bought this tape at a local record shop. When I got home, I was so excited to listen to this album. When I opened up the case, I was greeted with the wrong tape. It was Yaz instead. Super disappointed, I ended up purchasing the cassette online, which is something I prefer not to do with older cassettes because the whole thrill of building a collection is finding them in the wild and not taking the easy route. I only purchase new bands' cassettes because I want to support the artist, and I won't be finding their tapes at an estate sale or small town antique store until I'm like 80. I justified my online purchase because technically I at least found the cassette tape case in the wild and was just replacing what was on the inside. Nobody will ever know. Wait, don't tell your audience that last part. Just talk about the tape. Grendel, seriously, this will hurt my reputation if you spill this kind of information to my fans. Oops, okay, I wasn't supposed to read that part. What's done is done. Sorry, Mediocre Cassette Tape Archive. Your secret is safe with me and the maybe 3 other people that listen to this podcast. Find Mediocre Cassette Tape Archive on Instagram through the link in the description for this episode. Come small Texas with me as we take a look at Fort Richardson, located in Jacksboro, Texas. Come small Texas with me writes, Fort Richardson is certainly a destination worth driving to. With several remaining buildings on its premises, each one holds its own significance. I have a collection of pictures, so I plan to dedicate a post to each building in the future. Stay tuned. Wow. Very informative. Again, I was hoping that they would provide more context for their own segment, but okay. We don't know what building they were referring to without looking at the photos. For those of you that want to know, it's pictures of the commander's quarters, or maybe it's the officer's quarters. There are 2 signs on and near this building that use both terms. Are these interchangeable? I honestly have no clue. I would think that a commander and an officer would be similar, but what do I know? Come Small Texas with me says that this location is worth driving to, But I guess if you do not live within a reasonable driving distance, you could always try to book a flight with Zippy Airways. Mention my podcast and maybe they'll offer you a deal. I also do not know how sponsorships work. Are they supposed to give me money? Or are my listeners getting a discount? I have no clue. I guess I should have read the fine print. Sorry for derailing this segment. Let's get back to Jacksboro, Texas. Specifically, Fort Richardson. Fort Richardson, a former United States Army installation located in present-day Jacksboro, Texas, holds a significant place in history. Named in honor of Union General Israel B. Richardson, who fell at the Battle of Antietam during the American Civil War, Fort Richardson served from 1867 to 1878. Today the site, now known as Fort Richardson State Park, Historical Site, and Lost Creek Reservoir State Trailway, stands as a testament to its pivotal role in securing the state's northern frontier in the aftermath of the Civil War. This frontier stronghold, like others scattered across Texas, played a crucial role in facilitating white settlement and immigration into north-central Texas. It formed parts of a network of forts strategically positioned to protect and encourage settlement in the region. Among these forts were Griffin, Concho, Belknap, Chadbourne, Stockton, Davis, Clark, McIntosh, and Phantom Hill in Texas, along with Fort Still in Oklahoma. Additionally, smaller stations like Bothwick Station and Camp Wichita provided intermediate support, along with military road network. Initially slated for a location near Buffalo Springs in Clay County, Fort Richardson's original site proved impractical due to inadequate resources and security concerns posed by Native American raids. Consequently, the installation relocated south to its present site, where construction commenced in 1867 by the 6th Cavalry Regiment. Fort Richardson quickly became a cornerstone of the frontier fort system, serving as the last Army outpost in North Texas along the military route to Fort Sill. It expanded over time to accommodate multiple companies, reaching its peak in 1872 with a population of 666 officers and men, making it the largest U.S. Army installation in the country. Life at Fort Richardson was demanding for soldiers, who conducted extensive patrols along the frontier and engaged in battles with Comanche tribes. Notable events include General William T. Sherman's stay in 1871 and Colonel Randall S. Mackenzie's offensive operations against the tribes, culminating in the Battle of Palo Duro Canyon in 1874, which effectively ended Comanche raids in the region. Following its victory, Fort Richardson was deemed unnecessary and abandoned in 1878. However, it briefly served as an Indian school before falling into disrepair. Thanks to the efforts of Jacksboro residents, the fort was designated a state historic site in 1963 and underwent extensive restoration, reopening in 1973 as Fort Richardson State Historic Park. Today, visitors to Fort Richardson State Park can explore 7 meticulously restored original buildings, including the hospital, officers' quarters, and bakery, among others. Additionally, 2 replica buildings house an interpretive center offering guided tours to provide insight into the fort's rich history and significance in shaping the Texas frontier. Welcome to our new segment, Hogs Horrid Acres, where we delve into the fascinating world of animals, one species at a time. Why, you ask? Well, it so happens that I'm a druid with the unique ability to wild shape into any of these creatures whenever I please. Our inaugural focus is on the lynx, and you might wonder why this particular choice. Allow me to shed some light. I am a tabaxi bearing a striking resemblance to the lynx, perhaps even sharing ancestral ties with them, tracing back to a distant lynx-inhabited planet. Now let's explore the lynx. Lynx refers to any of the 4 existing species within the medium-sized cat genus Lynx: the Canadian lynx, Iberian lynx, Eurasian lynx, and the bobcat. The term originated from Middle English via Latin, derived from the Greek word lynx, which in turn stems from the Indo-European root, luke, maybe? I'm not good at pronouncing these things, meaning light or brightness, alluding to the luminous quality of its reflective eyes. In terms of appearance, lynx are characterized by a short tail, tufts of black hair on the tips of their ears, large padded paws suitable for traversing snow, and long whiskers. Their body color varies from medium brown to goldish to beige-white, often adorned with dark brown spots, especially on their limbs. Notably, all lynx species boast white fur on their chests, bellies, and the inside of their legs, with fur length and paw size adapting to the climate of their habitat. The smallest lynx species are the bobcat and the Canadian lynx, with the Eurasian lynx claiming the title of the largest among them. Weighing in at 8 to 14 kilograms, the Canadian lynx holds the distinction of being the smallest, while its Eurasian counterpart tips the scales at 18 to 30 kilograms. The evolution of lynx species traces back to Lynx isiodorensis, believed to have inhabited Europe and Africa during the late Pliocene to early Pleistocene epochs. The Pliocene phyllid Felis rexrodensis, found in North America, has also been considered an early ancestor, although larger in size and not classified as a true lynx. Each lynx species boasts unique characteristics and habitats. The Eurasian lynx, the largest of the 4, roams through European, Central Asian, and Siberian forests, displaying a thick silver-gray to grayish-brown coat during winter months. On the other hand, the Canada lynx, native to North America, thrives in forest and tundra regions, heavily relying on snowshoe hares for sustenance. The Iberian lynx, an endangered species native to the Iberian Peninsula, has seen its conservation status shift from critical to endangered due to concerted conservation efforts. Finally, the bobcat, common throughout North America, is renowned for its adaptability and varied habitats, ranging from woodlands to deserts. In the wild, lynx are usually solitary creatures, except during occasional hunting expeditions. Mating typically occurs in late winter, with females giving birth to 1 to 4 kittens after a gestation period of about 70 days. Their diet encompasses a wide range of prey, from deer and rabbits to birds and smaller mammals. Inhabiting high-altitude forests with dense vegetation, lynx possess impressive climbing and swimming abilities, making them formidable predators in their ecosystems. From Europe to North America, lynx species play a vital role in maintaining the balance of their respective ecosystems, serving as a testament to the remarkable diversity of nature. Is it spooky? Another new segment I would like to try out. I have the Spooky Anthology book and figured it would be a good use to read a story or two every episode since I have not gotten through this thing yet. The book is called Spooky Southwest Tales of Haunting, Strange Happenings, and Other Local Lore by S.E. Schlosser. Story 1. The Ghost on the Tracks, which takes place in Timpas, Colorado. The train rumbled around Jack as he adjusted the throttle. The night shift was always the toughest in his mind. A man was not meant to be working through the night hours. It was unnatural. His wife sure didn't like it. They had argued about it just before Jake left the house to go to work. He frowned, thinking about it. He loved Miranda, but now and then she drove him crazy. He stretched a bit and yawned, trying to stay alert. The train had driven through Timpas a few minutes ago and was on its way to Thatcher. It was not a bad stretch of track, and there was no better train in the entire Atchison, Topeka, and Santa Fe road. But the night run was very boring. The darkness obscured the scenery except for a few trees and stones that appeared in the headlights. Jake was new to this run. It was quite a popular shift with the other engineers, which surprised him. Normally the men avoided the shifts through the dead of night, preferring daylight or early evening hours. For some reason, the Timpas run was different. Jake was deep in thought. He was startled back to the present by a movement on the track ahead. He strained his eyes against the darkness to either side of the track. Then he gasped as the lights picked up the figure of a beautiful woman with long, red gold hair and wonderful blue eyes. She was standing near the tracks, too near. He sounded his horn to warn her away. She would be killed. Why didn't she run? As he reached for the brake, he realized that there was something odd about the way she appeared in the headlights. She was wispy somehow, almost translucent. Suddenly, Jake realized the lights of the speeding train were shining right through her. His hands froze on the brake. She was a ghost! The beautiful woman stepped into the center of the track, facing down the train. She was laughing. The train rushed right at the ghost, and Jake closed his eyes instinctively, not wanting to see the train hit her. When Jake opened his eyes seconds later, the beautiful ghost was in the engine cab next to him. The scent of roses filled the air. He stared at the ghostly vision, bewitched by her beauty. All thought of driving the train left him. All he could think of was this gorgeous ghost. She came toward him with an enticing smile. Then she wrapped ghostly arms around his neck and kissed him. He let go of the brake and tried to wrap his arms around her, but she disappeared as soon as he moved. He looked back outside, but all was darkness save for the lights of the engine. She was gone. Dazed and disappointed, Jake finished the run to Thatcher in a trance, almost forgetting to stop at the station. Jake decided not to tell anyone about the ghost, fearing for his job. But he was plagued by curiosity. Finally, he confided the story to a close friend who was a fellow engineer. To his surprise, his friend had heard about the ghost before. The ghost's appearance on the train was by no means uncommon. She always appeared on that particular stretch of track after dark, beckoning to the men on the railroad crew with a bewitching smile. Sometimes, said the friend, she would come right onto the train. No one had been able to discover who the woman had been in life. Better not tell Miranda you've seen her, his friend advised. Jake didn't need to be told twice. Miranda was the jealous type. Jake didn't know whether to be glad or sorry when he found out he had been permanently assigned to a different run. In the end, he decided that it was for the best. After all, sooner or later, Miranda was bound to hear about the beautiful ghost on the tracks. If he were still assigned to the run when she heard that story, she would make his life miserable. And if Miranda ever found out that the ghost had kissed him, Jake shook his head. He'd be deader than a doornail. Jake knew he was lucky to be off the hook. Still, he felt rather sad. That ghost was quite a kisser. I just didn't like this story. I would say it was pretty much not good. How did he see her hair and eye color, then realize she looked wispy? Like, I would think that the wispy thing would come first, then maybe when she got up on the train he could see her hair and eye color. I would say this is just a sad story of a guy that hates his wife and dreamed up some pretty lady. Why would his wife be jealous of a ghost? I think Jake wished his wife was a ghost. Or maybe he wishes he was a ghost. Maybe he just wishes he was dead. Anyways, story number 2. The Half-Clad Ghost. This one takes place in Waco, Texas. Tess Grant stood beside the grave long after the rest of the family had gone back down the hill. Ben, her eldest son, had urged her to leave with him, but she had shaken her head. "I need to be alone with your pa," she told him. He nodded and left her alone. The grave diggers were shuffling impatiently a few yards away, wanting to finish the job and get home. But Tess wasn't ready to leave. She gazed down at the flower-strewn casket in the ground, thinking about the years she had spent with her husband. Henry's eyes, she remembered, had popped right out of his head the first time he had ever seen her. It had taken him a few weeks to get up enough gumption to talk to her, because he thought a classy dame like her wouldn't want to associate with a dirt-poor farmer. She recollected the gentle way he had taken her hand in front of the minister, and the way in which he had promised to love her for the rest of his life. And she would never forget the amazed look on Henry's face the first time he had held baby Ben in his arms. Tess chuckled suddenly, recalling the many times Henry had dragged her away from her chores to inspect his latest invention. Henry considered himself another Ben Franklin. Unfortunately, none of his inventions ever worked. He had nearly blown them all to kingdom come more than once. Of course, life with Henry hadn't always been a bed of roses. He had to have the last word, no matter if he were right or wrong on a matter. And he always insisted on wearing 2 pairs of underwear. He called them drawers, every day, even in the heat of summer. It made twice as much work washing up. Tess shook her head over the memory. She had fussed and fussed at Henry, to no avail. He still wore his 2 pairs of drawers every livelong day. At least she had gotten the last word about those blasted drawers of his. She had him buried in his best suit in 1 pair of drawers, like a normal Christian. She could take comfort from that. Tess sighed. She missed Henry terribly, and probably always would. Behind her, she could hear the gravediggers muttering restlessly. It was time to go. "Goodbye, Henry," Tess said. "I'll be seeing you soon in glory." She went down the hill, and Ben helped her into the carriage and drove her home. The house seemed empty without Henry popping in and out to get her opinion on his latest invention or to ask her for help in the barn. Of course, Ben came over each morning and evening to take care of the chores, and his wife, Mammy, and the grandkids were always stopping by to see how Grandma was doing. But Tess still felt her loss keenly. Once she took out Henry's second best pair of drawers, laughing and crying over them as she remembered how often they had argued over his wearing 2 pairs every day. That night, as Tess sat on her front porch, rocking and watching the sunset, she felt a sudden breeze chill her skin. She shivered and stood to go inside. Then she froze. Coming towards her across the front yard was a man who looked just like Henry. He had the same wide-set eyes, the same graying hair, and the same way of walking. The man stopped, and Tess realized with a shudder that it was Henry, and she could see right through him. Tess gave a shriek of fright. Henry blinked in surprise, then faded away. Ben came hurrying out of the barn. "Mama, are you all right?" he called. Tess was still shaken with fear, but she managed to smile for poor, overworked Ben. "I just saw a huge spider," Tess lied. Ben relaxed and chuckled. Tess's fear of spiders was legendary. "Want me to kill it for you?" Ben asked. "I reckon I already killed it with all my shrieking," said Tess. Ben laughed and went back to his chores. Tess went inside and drank a cup of tea to steady her nerves. Had she really seen Henry's ghost? She decided that had been a trick of the light. Tess was jumpy for the rest of the night, but nothing happened. Mammy teased her a bit about the huge spider, and her eldest grandson promised to squash it for her if the spider came back. In the bright sunlight of the next morning, Tess soon forgot all about the ghost. But as dusk fell, The icy breeze returned, touching her skin while she washed the supper dishes. Tess turned and saw Henry standing in the doorway, looking at her. She could see the kitchen garden right through him. Tess dropped the plate she was holding. Henry frowned and disappeared. Mamie came rushing in from the parlor, where she was making up the fire. "Mother Grant, are you all right?" "That blasted plate just dropped right out of my hand," said Tess, reaching for the broom. "I'll clean it up," said Mamie. "No, child, I made the mess. I aim to clean it up," said Tess, shooing her away. She picked up the broken shards, swept the floor carefully, and finished the dishes. "Living with Henry was enough to drive anyone stark raving mad," Tess muttered to herself as she dried the last dish. "And now he's dead and buried and still driving me crazy. That was one of my best plates." The next evening at dusk, Tess sat down on the porch with her knitting and waited for Henry to show up. Sure enough, she felt a cold breeze touch her skin, and a moment later Henry came walking towards her across the lawn and stopped at the foot of the steps. They stared at each other for a long moment. Then Henry frowned and disappeared. Tess had no idea why Henry kept coming back to haunt her. If she'd gone to glory, she sure wouldn't want to come back to earth. No, sir. Tess wondered if Henry would stay put in glory if she moved to another house. That night, Tess told Ben she was feeling a bit lonely in the big house. Would he mind if she spent the next few nights with them, just until she got used to being alone? Ben was so happy he gave Tess a hug. He'd wanted to invite her to stay with them, but had been afraid she wouldn't want to leave her old home. Tess packed a bag and went home with Ben. After supper, while Mamie was tucking the kids into bed, Tess took a stroll around the backyard with Ben. As they stood beside the swing, talking about Henry, Tess felt a familiar cold breeze touch her skin. Beside her, Ben gave a shiver and said, "It's getting chilly, Mama. We better go in." Ben stopped, his mouth frozen open in shock. Tess knew even before she turned to look that Henry was coming across the yard towards them. "Pa?" gasped Ben. Tess shook her head as Henry's ghost stopped in front of the swing. He stared at Tess, and she stared right back at him. Ben looked back and forth between both his parents, one dead and one alive. Tess could tell Ben wanted to speak but didn't know what to say. Tess was beginning to find the situation annoying. If Henry was going to haunt her, at least he could tell her what he wanted. Tess put her hands on her hips and said, "What in the name of the good Lord do you want, Henry?" Henry cocked his head, considering her question just as he had often done in life. Tess began to tap her toe, a sure sign that she was getting ready to box Henry's ears if he didn't speak up. Henry flinched a bit and said, "Honey, give me another pair of drawers, please. I feel naked up here in heaven, wearing only one pair." "For mercy's sake," gasped Tess, "you came all the way back from heaven for another pair of drawers?" Henry grinned sheepishly and nodded. "Well, all right. Ben will put another pair on you tomorrow morning, won't you, Ben?" Tess turned to glare at her oldest son. Ben swallowed hard. He didn't want to dig up his father's grave, but he knew better than to argue with his mother when she spoke in that tone of voice. "Yes, Mama," he said. "There, does that suit you, Henry Grant?" "Thanks, honey," Henry said, starting to fade away. "Henry Grant, you come back here this instant," said Tess. Henry's ghost solidified immediately. He, too, knew not to mess with Tess when she spoke in that tone of voice. "What you want, honey lamb?" Henry said soothingly. "Are you done haunting me?" Tess demanded. "Yes, ma'am. Now that I got me my second pair of drawers, I'll be fit for company up in glory. I'll be waiting for you there," said Henry. "Good. I'll meet you there by and by," said Tess. "You'll like it there, Tess, my girl," Henry cried enthusiastically, becoming almost solid in his excitement. "I've got a great big laboratory and all kinds of chemicals and tubes and wires and things. I'll be the greatest inventor in heaven. Wait and see." "Lord have mercy," said Tess. "You'd best be getting started then." "Yes, indeed," Henry said. "See you later, honey lamb." Henry disappeared, and Tess sat down on the swing. "Mama," gasped Ben, "was that really Pa?" "It was your father, all right," said Tess grimly. "No one else would come all the way back from heaven for a second pair of drawers." Ben helped Tess off the swing, and they walked back to the house. "Now, don't you forget to put that second pair of drawers on your father tomorrow," Tess said to Ben as they entered the house. or he'll be a hauntin' us till kingdom come." "I will, Mama," said Ben. Tess shook her head in disbelief. "I don't know what the good Lord was thinking when he gave Henry that laboratory. Ben, my boy, I just hope the good Lord puts Henry in the farthest corner of heaven, or there won't be any pearly gates left by the time we get there." So, why 2 pairs of underwear? Can anyone confirm if that does something special? Is 2 pairs unchristian? I would think no pairs would be unchristian, and if 1 pair is normal Christian, then 2 pairs is like saint status. Also, he was given a laboratory in heaven, but couldn't get another pair of underwear unless his son put a 2nd pair on his dug-up dead body. I hated this story too, but these were kind of fun in an infuriating type of way, so I will continue over the next several episodes until I complete this book. Otherwise, I will never finish reading it, and I hate leaving any book unfinished. Alright, that is it for episode 2. I hope you enjoyed our new segments. If you had a favorite part, please let me know, or don't. You can keep that to yourself. I will never know. I'll just never know. Okay, goodbye for now. Maybe forever. Grendel signing off.